Hello, I'm Sarah, this is Hardcover Hearts, and this is my week of reading wrap-up, where I talk about the books that I read this week, what I'm currently reading, potentially could read next week, all that good stuff. So I had a great reading week, mostly thanks to Cloak and Dagger Christmas, which is the event that's hosted by a slew of wonderful women. I'll put a link to all of their channels below. And they have this really fun extravaganza every December of just a month of reading mysteries. And I think I've mentioned before to you that mystery reading is kind of my palate cleanser between headier literary fiction. So I'm always here for it, and coming out of Nonfiction November, where I really stumbled a lot, it's really helped me get my mojo back. So I'm endlessly appreciative. But let's get into the books. So the first one I want to mention is not yet out in the United States, and I don't know when it's going to be released. But, you know, if you can order from your local bookstore, you can also order from Blackwells, which is an independent bookstore in the UK that ships to the United States. So I put a link, an affiliate link that I have with them below if you are so interested in checking Blackwells out. This is, I think they call it in the UK, a corker. This one blew my mind. I started reading it, I think at like 9 at night. Could not stop. I was freaking my husband out because I'm usually somebody that when it's time for bed, I am out. No, I was glued to this, bright-eyed, completely in it. I haven't been so captured by a book in a long, long time like I was with this one. And what's interesting to me is that this had all sorts of things that usually turn me off. And I tend to think sometimes are just too clever, but it worked here. It really worked for me. So the book, no more suspense, right? The book is called The Appeal by Janice Hallett. So let me show you that. And the title says, "One murder, 15 suspects. Can you uncover the truth?" So there's only a few things that I want to say about this because I don't want to give too much, because I think going into it without a lot of preconceived notions is really a wonderful way to experience this book, because it's an experience. The setup, I'll give you a little brief on that. The setup is we have two junior lawyers, and they are given a pile of documentation, and they're told to look at this with fresh eyes, and that they're two up and coming young barristers, and they are kind of put on this as kind of one of their first tests. So they're very, very excited, and their names are Femi and Charlotte. So we see an email that comes from their boss. And then we immediately go into the communications, and it's all emails and texts. So fundamentally, this is an epistolary murder mystery, which, you know, kind of fun. But I usually don't like texts and emails because I think it just sometimes can be very dated. But this worked once you got into the flow. So the murder has already happened. The trial's already happened. Someone gets murdered of the people who are communicated about and in this stack of documentation, and they are being asked to tell who they think murdered and who they think was convicted of the murder. And so what's fascinating is that you see the communications between people, and you start to learn who all these people are in this little village, and everything centers around kind of these Venn diagrams of groups of people. The first and kind of most central to this is a family that owns a theater company, and they own it sounds like it's almost like a recreation center that does events, but they also have a theater. That's one family. And so we have the matriarch and her husband. He directs, and she's usually the star. And their daughter and son-in-law usually help out and are in the plays as well. And then you have a bunch of people that work there, that work at this center, And then you have another grouping, and this grouping is around a local hospital. And specifically, there are 3 people, a new couple that just got into town. Now, they came from, they're back in the UK after volunteering for a very long time in Africa. They were in Democratic Republic of Congo, and they are back, and they were doing medical service work, volunteer work there. It's Sam and Kel. Sam is a nurse, and she's immediately put into the geriatric ward and to help there. And she's there, and she meets this woman, Isabel, who also known as Izzy. And Izzy is kind of the conduit between these groups, between Kel and Sam and the actors of this playhouse. And is looking to kind of be a welcome and include them in what's going on. So that's the setup, and there's so much interesting things that happen, twists and turns. There are many characters, but there were more than a couple places where they added, she wisely added a list of who all the people were. And I have to say, I only had to go back a couple times to double check someone. Other than that, it was very clear. The voice of some of these characters is very, very clear. Now, I do want to say, because I know you all have an expectation of me, that I read very closely for colonialism and depictions of foreign countries, especially third world countries, that are disparaging and rude, and kind of effects of colonialism. I hate it, and there are some things that I immediately drew my concern, and I was like, I'm going to watch for that. And I'm really glad I did, because the use of what was happening in the Democratic Republic of Congo is leveraged as a mirror to what's happening in this little village in the UK. And so I found that very, very interesting. And if you've read the book and you want to talk more about it with me, let me know, because I actually highlighted, one of the few highlights, a very interesting section where that's discussed, actually overtly discussed and brought out, which I thought was really well done. That it was, you weren't hammered with it, and so it's also easy to miss. But thoroughly enjoyed this. This is one that if this had been in the United States, I would have been buying it for people and giving it to them for the holidays. I thought it was phenomenal. I woke up early and finished it before work. So I think I sped through this in record time, but so enjoyed the experience. So enjoyed it. Okay, so that's the first one. So the next book is something that I got on NetGalley. So just as The Appeal isn't out yet, this one is not out until March of 2022, but you may want to write it in your calendar, the end of March. This is the latest by Awaeke Emezi. Awaeke Emezi has very quickly become one of my most go-to authors. I find what they publish very interesting, very unique and fresh voice. And when I found out that there was a romance that they just published, I wanted to find out more. So when I was gifted this, I immediately stopped everything and just opened it up and started reading. This is the story of Faye, and it's set in New York City. And we have Faye, who's out at a party with her friend, and her friend is trying to get her to open up, to be social again, to kind of reinvest in the world. And you recognize very quickly that Faye has been incredibly traumatized by something in her past and is careful, cautious. But tonight, for some reason, she's throwing caution to the wind. And she's slowly coming out of what turns out to be mourning the death of her husband, who was her first and truest love. And she starts to come back to life through her senses, through physicality, through sensuality. And and is kind of going all out there, but is incredibly careful with her emotions and her heart, and has very firm boundaries of how close she's going to let people get to her. So we see her in a few different scenarios and a few different interesting relationship type of interactions, and then she meets someone, and it's incredibly messy. It's incredibly awkward, and all that beautiful tension that you expect in a romance is there. And what I really liked about this romance is it's not just about being seen. She's seen by a lot of people. People see her and they know her, but she's not heard and she's not understood until this one person shows up in her life. This was an incredibly satisfying romance. I enjoyed it, and I'm so shocked to say that for 2 weeks in a row I've read romance books, the last one being At the End of the Matinee, so look for that in my last video, which was kind of a mature romance in translation, and then this one. So I enjoyed it. I think if you all, like me, like Awaeke Emezi's work, be on the lookout in March, because this one I think will impress you as well. Then I started this. This is an epic, one of those books that everyone talks about having read, kind of like the storied classics. This is Thomas Mann's Buddenbrooks. This is something that Leo, my good friend Leo of A Little Book Life, you'll hear more about him later, he's always told me that he thought that I would really like it. I have read Thomas Mann's Death in Venice when I was in college, and just fell in love with the prose and what he was saying, and this strange relationship, this infatuation of this older man with this young man that he sees while he's in Venice on vacation. And I'm gearing up to read Colm Toibin's The Magician. Now, this is his take on kind of the literary fictionalized biography of Thomas Mann. So I wanted to at least read, it was this or Magic Mountain. I was like, I think I need to read this one. I'm intimidated by Magic Mountain. I can only handle so many big epic classics in 1 year. So I said, okay, well, let me do this in audio. So I listened to the audio of Buddenbrooks, and it was very good. It's, if you like family sagas and historical family sagas, this is right up your alley. We meet the Buddenbrooks, and the Buddenbrooks are a very wealthy family in northern Germany, and it really starts at the turn of the last century, and we follow 4 generations of the Buddenbrooks as they kind of go through from wealth into means that are kind of impoverished. And so it's very much a family tragedy that goes along with the times of what was happening in Europe. At the core of it is this theme about artist versus business, artist versus businessman. What is the value, and is there a life that can combine, or is it one or the other? And you could tell that this is a very serious tension that plays throughout the entire book. This, I think, is going to set me up well to read the Magician, which I'm going to try to read before the end of the year. I have a few NetGalleys that I want to get through because they are either award winners or people are saying it's the best of the year. So I really want to try to end the year having read them. So that will be one of them. Okay, and now I continued on with a series that I was incredibly dubious about. The series is the new Lord Peter Wimsey Harriet Vane mystery. This was the one I talked about last week. This is Thrones Dominations by Dorothy L. Sayre and Jill Paton Walsh. So this was an unusual situation in that Dorothy L. Sayre had a manuscript, hadn't been completed, and so her estate asked Jill Paton Walsh to polish it up and get it ready for publication. She agreed and put this out. This was sublime, one of the best books, mystery books that I've read in ages. It had all of Dorothy L. Sayre's stamp on it, her depth, her emotional resonance with these characters, her intelligence. The woman was trained at Oxford. She put this down so that she could do a translation of Dante's Inferno. She's brilliant. She's brilliant. And so when reading this, you remember how brilliant she was, how she interweaves history and interweaves poetry, and at every chapter there's an epigraph in front of every chapter that kind of tees you up, and you know the wealth of knowledge that this woman's brain carries, right? So I adored this, and I just didn't want to let go of Harriet Vane, so I decided to go into the next one. So this is, you'll notice, the names switch. So this is Jill Paton Walsh, then it is Dorothy L. Sayre. This is A Presumption of Death. So this is the second in this, I think there's 4 in total. This was good. It was really good. It was good. It was a good modern, what you would expect from a mystery that you would pick up today. It's not a Dorothy L. Sayre book. I'll tell you that much. You can tell that there was an outline. You can tell that there were notes. You could tell there were pieces there, but they were all kind of crafted together. And I'm not saying that you can see the seams. It's, like I said, it's a very good mystery story. It just doesn't have all of the extra riches and depth and gems that you find in something that Dorothy L. Sayre has put her craft into. In this episode, in this part of the series, we have World War II has broken out. Lord Peter is on a secret mission. He is somewhere, they don't know where. And Harriet has taken their 2 sons, so they have two children, taken their sons to the country. So they have a country home. They've taken the sons there, and she's also taken her sister-in-law's children, two nieces and a nephew. And her thing is, well, if you're going to have a couple kids, you might as well have more, and then they can at least watch each other. And she's also cognizant that she has help. You know, she has people that are paid to help her, which is something that she does not take for granted, being that she did not grow up in this sheltered and privileged environment. So it opens up and they're practicing for an air raid in this little village that they live in. They've got a whole bunch of servicemen that are stationed in this village, as well as some refugee children have been brought from London out to the country, as well as the land girls. And so there's all sorts of scandal with the land girls and the soldiers and what's all happening there. There's a very big dance that everyone's getting all excited for, and then at the very tail end, they throw in the air raid exercise. So this is a drill to give everyone the understanding of what it would be like so they could start practicing, because they're anticipating that England is going to be bombed. As they come out of the bomb shelters, there's a woman, one of the land girls is dead in the street. So the main policeman in charge of this asks Harriet if she wouldn't mind leveraging that lady title and her expertise as a fiction crime writer to see what's going on. And so she does. She starts to poke around. She starts to try to figure out why this woman, who tried to kill her, and what's happening. And it leads for a very interesting mystery. There's spying, there's intrigue, and there's, of course, the continuation of the romance and the deep love affair between Lord Peter and Harriet, and their unique meeting of the minds, and the fact that they just like each other, and which is just so lovely to read as inspiring a couple. Kind of hashtag marriage goals, right? If you can go into this thinking of it as another historical mystery of this kind of genre, I think you will enjoy it. But if you go into it expecting the intelligence, the wisdom and genius that is Dorothy L. Sayre, you will be incredibly disappointed. It's in the other, but it's not here. Yeah, it's not here, but it was still a good book. So I'll be dying to know how many of you pick that one up after that review. So let me tell you what I'm currently reading. I'm continuing with Cloak and Dagger Christmas and reading, this seems to be a tradition that I always read one of these books in December for Cloak and Dagger. And this is the Lee Do series by Elsa Hart. Let me show you that cover. Isn't that lovely? This is City of Ink. And the first one in the series is Jade Dragon Mountain, which was fantastic. This Li Du is a great character. This is set in 1711 in China. He's a royal scholar that was actually exiled and has been traveling and is now settled in one spot. He's been working as a secretary for a government official, doing his speeches and filing his paperwork. The man does not like to read and definitely doesn't like to write, but he does love talking to people. So it's a good combination for Li Du to be working under him and kind of away from the limelight. Well, he gets pulled into the limelight when the official is called to the scene of a murder. And it's owner of this, in essence, factory where they build tiles for roofs. And it's the owner's wife was caught with another official, kind of a religious official. And it looked like they were having an affair. And they have been murdered in this office space. And so he gets dragged in to kind of figure out what's happening here and to write out all of the details, to write out what happened, what are people saying, and to be there for all of the interviews. So in essence, he's acting like a court stenographer, which is just a really smart way to approach a murder mystery. I'm only about a third of the way through, but enjoy it so far. Looking forward to continuing with that. Oh, yeah, still reading Proust. I will finish this by the end of this year, though. That I guarantee you. This is Volume 4, Sodom and Gomorrah, translated by John Sturrock. This is Marcel Proust, In Search of Lost Time. Then I also am trying to read the Booker shortlist. Had this book and just decided to pick it up because this also has a mysterious tinge to it. This is Anouk Arumpagazam. And this is A Passage North, and it's a beautiful, beautiful cover. Not sure how I feel about this yet. It's moving incredibly slow. And it seems like there's a few different focuses of this book, and one of them I'm less interested in unless it turns around. We'll see. We'll see. Then my dear friend Leo and I are on to number 15 of our Anita Brookner project. This is Altered States by Anita Brookner. Look at that great cover. So I can't say too much yet because Leo has not checked in, so I will be holding this. Just know that we will finish this soon, and this will be in my next week's check-in for sure. And then what I'm going to be starting, going to continue on with the Virginia Woolf project that I was doing with Elizabeth of Bookish North. And we're going to see if we can read these two books by the end of the year. This is Virginia Woolf's The Waves and The Years. This one will probably slip into January, and then we only have one other one. Between the Acts will be the last one we read, and we're going to try to get that done by Valentine's Day, we said, and that will complete our Virginia Woolf project that we've been working on for over a year now, which has been quite exciting. So those are the books. I am going to be off a little bit this week, and I do have a stack of books that I want to finish before the end of the year. Maybe I'll do a video showing you the ones that I would like to finish before the end of the year. Maybe that will help me kind of get through them. And I'll continue with Cloak and Dagger Christmas because I am only, after I finish the Li Du, I only have 2 more, and I will have mastered the bingo card and officially become a Sherlock Holmes level, which would make me very excited. So that's it for me for now. I would love to know, have you read any of these books? What did you think about them? Are there any books that remind you of these that you think I would like? I would always love to know that. And that's it for me for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.